obviously I have trouble standing. I have a cane.
That's a great defense.
However, I'm rehabbing, and when I don't need my cane, I sometimes carry it with me because if I'm asked to do a heel-to-toe thing, I'll get out and do the best I can. I'm guessing policeman might think, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Is this more trouble than it's worth from the beginning? So, but as to the patient, if you're a legal patient, how does that work if you get stopped? One, this is Lefty Grimes right here has been he's a legal patient and goes to police stations.
So we discussed it. We think you're probably going to be okay, but the cop is never going to see that prescription card up until that moment, so he'll probably arrest you anyway and then deal with it afterwards. But to answer your first question, the officer, if he's a good officer or trooper, will give you tests that you can use with your mind. Like he'll ask you to say the alphabet without singing, starting at the letter D, ending at the letter
He'll
S.
ask you to take 9 steps and you'll take 10 because it's always in groups of 10. That's another way to get around it. My question would be this though. There are compassionate use medical marijuana guidelines established by the state, the Attorney General's office, which Lefty delivers to police stations so that they will already be aware, they should have been aware, but if a patient carries around a copy of the guidelines and they have their card on them and the time is just so, I've got Attorney General guidelines, you should have seen these already. Would it not put them a little more on a defense of this person has a card, has the guidelines?
Well, you're asking us to tell you what a cop's going to do in that
Yeah.
situation.
What
I'm
would you
certainly
think?
not the
What would
officer
you
that
think?
pulled him over, so I have no idea, but I would simply say that he probably or hopefully would know what the right thing to do is, right?
He's been finding out that's not really the case though. And not in a bad way, they've all been very anxious to know because they don't actually, or I suppose I'm smoking and I have a card, I don't look sick. He's kind of, and he can't go all 566 municipalities, although he may well prove it. But it shows actually, by and large, they do not know exactly what the case is because he says, I need to medicate now, where can I? What does it take? 8-10 minutes usually for them to verify everything and say right outside by the flagpole sign.
This is an issue, I don't care whether we're talking about marijuana or I had a client within like a year and a half ago or so, I think it was, who was taking her prescribed medications. And this is what I was talking about with the danger of if we create this class of offenses, DWI, and I have to tell you, if I walk into court with somebody charged with murder, people look at that person and they say, well, I don't know whether he did it. When you go in charged with DWI, there's kind of an assumption, well, we know that guy's guilty. It's just a matter of whether or not his attorney can find the technicality. Where I'm going with this is, the problem is we swept the drugs into that. And whether it's marijuana or whether it's some other drug, it becomes a question of fact, at least in theory. We all know, in theory, that I can take prescribed medication like Soma and drive a motor vehicle. We all know, in theory, that if the Soma that I took is at what's known as a therapeutic level, so it's not impairing me, my ability to operate a motor vehicle. In theory, that's okay. The problem is, in practice in New Jersey, as in other states, we're going to come back with a blood test that shows that there's some drug, whether it's Soma, whether it's marijuana, it's going to come back and show positive. And now the question is, can we successfully defend against the allegation that you were under the influence of that marijuana or Soma or whatever? And I'm going to tell you that it's very difficult. In the example I used a moment ago, I won, but not until we had to go on appeal because she got railroaded at the municipal court level, and that happens a lot. Thank God she had enough money to actually fight this out. So like back to Jason's advice before, a lot of this is, well, you just want to do everything in your power to make sure you can avoid being charged in the first place, because you do not want to be leaving your fate.
Did you say they don't generally plead stuff like that earlier?
See, the thing with DWI is it's the one offense. It's right. Prosecutors are not allowed to plea bargain. Prosecutors,
It's
judges.
not a law. It's an Attorney General guidelines sent to all the prosecutors.
It's in the court rules though. Judges are not allowed to plea bargain them. Now, that being said, we can sometimes work out deals with a wink, wink, and a nod, nod, where we say, well, maybe.
I mean, there's reasons behind it.
Right, there's reasons behind it, but the idea is that the prosecutor says, all right, I'm going to say that we can't prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. And we're going to give him a good reason why he can say that. He can't just, people don't just make this stuff up, because if they did, they wouldn't be long for these jobs. But we can try to convince the prosecutor, here's how the state can say they can't prove their case beyond reasonable doubt, so we'll get rid of the DWI. And then it just so happens, it's all coincidental because we don't actually plea bargain these things. It just so happens that maybe the defendant will plead guilty to a lesser motor vehicle offense and lose her license for a period of time. Sometimes that's how it works out in the real world. It's technically not a plea bargain.
I got a question. If I'm on the border and I'm a medical marijuana patient, I'm medicating on the border with my medical marijuana. Is it
Border of what?
at the border of Pennsylvania or New York? Any border besides New Jersey? And is it NFL rules or soccer rules? If my toe is on the border, am I out of bounds, or is it soccer rules where my body can be out of bounds?
Well, that's a great
Marijuana is
question.
in New Jersey. Where does the marijuana have to
I
be?
can only speak to like the Delaware River bridges because that's where my practice is. All right, which is like the Tacony Palmyra, the Bristol, the Betsy Ross, the Ben Franklin, the Walt Whitman, the Commodore Barry, and then the Delaware Memorial. All right, the officers, which are mostly the Delaware River Port Authority, have county-wide jurisdiction. Okay, they actually make the choice whether they charge you in PA or New Jersey. Okay, or the
You're talking about DARPA? You talking about?
Yeah, DRPA. Or at the Delaware Memorial, they make the choice whether they charge you in Delaware or New Jersey. Okay? And they can actually charge you in either place. Now, I don't know why you would be standing on the middle of the border smoking your prescribed marijuana, knowing that this state it's illegal and I'm prescribed in this state.
What if we're tubing down the Delaware River?
Well, I will say this.
But you better get off on the Jersey side.
At some point you're in Jersey, and there is such a thing as constructive possession. And I know this came up in the context of a drug case with respect to whether or not it was in, I believe it was a public park. And the person, as I recall, the person was in the drug-free zone. The drugs were not. They were somewhere else. You go and get them. That was enough for the courts. They said, look, he constructively possessed it while there, so that's enough. So I could see where, even if the drugs were theoretically over the border and you were in New Jersey, I could see where a court might say, you possessed it while you're in New Jersey.
Right.
And by the way, the courts are generally...
And if you keep doing that stuff, man, you're gonna end up like a Supreme Court case. You're gonna be known as like, you know, like you think Bob Miranda right now is like, man, it's pretty cool that everyone has to do that.
Anyone else?
Sure. I've been seeing some videos on the internet of people filming police officers when they get pulled over, and it seems like it kind of puts cops like fire into their ass. Would you encourage people to do that if they were worried about someone? You know, I've seen them taking a canine and giving a false indicator.
Yeah, I know. They like hit the car. They're like, do you think it's in here? And he's like over there, and he's like.
So obviously, there's some corruption going on. Would you encourage us to do that if we were?
Dude, I do not encourage you to do anything that would put yourself at risk, specifically by videotaping anything. Every cop is different.
You can do it surreptitiously. I mean, you can do it on the sly without them knowing. The risk you run is this, and it's not really a legal question.
Right.
You know, I'll tell you, I have a buddy of mine who, I mean, the next time he drives sober will be the first time. And I won't get in a car with him. And he called me one day and he told me about how he was in a particular town and he got pulled over by the cops, and they asked him, have you had anything to drink? He said, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, I had a lot to drink. And they moved his car across the highway, parked it there, let somebody pick him up. In a town where I had just tried 2 DWI cases, so I know the cops ring people up for DWI. How did he get away with it? Don't know. But what if he had run into a different cop who decided he was going to prosecute him? There would be nothing I could do for him because he just flat out admitted he shouldn't have been driving. So the moral of the story is you never know. But there is something to be said for the cop as a human being. You might not want to tick them off because they might have given you a break. You'll never know.
Right.
So it's hard to advise you on what's the best way to deal with that situation.
Right. Don't put yourself in that situation. Abstinence. Bro.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. And no Bud Lights. I had no Bud Lights, officer.
Well, I was kind of tying it in with, the fact that you said we have our Fifth Amendment rights. We can say, I'll get a lawyer, like, I don't have to ask you questions. You don't wanna come up as being a dick, because they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'll show you my power.
Right, I respectfully decline to answer your questions.
Which you're saying, like,
Until I have
your
an
client
attorney
is
present.
like, all right, well, you're guilty.
This-
Guilty
this-
until proven
Yeah,
innocent.
you have the right. He might also have the right to give you 7 summonses that he wasn't gonna give you.
Right, you do have the obligation to answer some questions. You have to give your name, you have to produce ID, you have, I mean, if he says where you're coming from, technically you can be like, it's none of your fucking business. But you're probably getting taken down at that point, you know what I mean?
I had a client who, actually he was a friend of mine, who tells me that when the officer asked him how much he had to drink, he told him like, I had a drink or 1 beer or something. And moments later, the officer asked him, well, are you sure you only had 1 drink? Because you don't smell like you had 1 drink. And his response was, well, if you knew the answer, then would you ask the fucking question? That's a bad answer. Don't give that.
Another bad answer is, I saw this one. The guy's like, in the report's like, I asked the defendant how many drinks he had. He said he had 2. Too many.
Bad answer.
The videos are the best though, man. The drunk videos are the best. Sir, raise your one up. And then they're like,
You get some interesting.
I'm not gonna lie to you, officer, I am wasted.
And that's why I really enjoyed doing this line of work, because I thought I'd like employment law, because there are a lot of cases involving like sexual harassment and like stuff going on in parking lots, and I was like, these are awesome stories. But you come to find out, you watch some of the arrest videos, they're incredibly entertaining. And if you're gonna get paid for being a lawyer, like better to actually get paid watching stuff like that than like drawing up commercial pieces.
Right, for people who don't even care if they win or lose.
That's, well, as much as possible.
I have a question. A little while ago, you said something about the wrong shirt to be wearing. Okay.
That might be in that
Yeah,
category.
yeah. This is one of your shirts, but I always have different weed shirts on. And I'll tell you, in East Sham Township, I still have a case going on now.
Yeah,
Right
I've been
there.
to East Sham once or twice.
Say that again.
I've been to East Sham once or twice.
Yeah.
Just
Now,
happened.
now, I have to record the whole thing too. As soon as the cop pulls over, and I was a passenger, as soon as he turned it over, I started recording. The officer even at one point even asked me, like, were you recording me? I said, no, I'm recording myself. So he left that part of it alone. But he asked me, at one point, did I have marijuana on? So I was being funny. I said, are you profiling me because I have dreads? I even go with race. I said dreads, right? And here's what his answer was. His answer was, no, I'm not profiling you because you have dreads. I've met plenty of people who have dreads that didn't have marijuana in their pocket, but I've never met a person who had a weed shirt on who didn't have marijuana. I was like, what? That kind of got me. But then, of course, he did search me, and I did have marijuana in my pocket. But I think but the case is still going on. The judge keeps postponing it. My argument was that my shirt shouldn't be used as probable cause to search me. To me, this is freedom of expression, it's First Amendment protected, blah, 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 blah. He thinks that this shirt means that I have marijuana in my body.
Well, you're asking like a specific legal question, and we haven't seen the police reports, and it's like, all we're basing this answer on is what you just told us about the shirt. My guess is that he probably, in his report, and I haven't seen it, says that there's several other things that led him to believe that you were, in possession of marijuana. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
No, we got stopped, the taillight was out. We're on the side of the road, all this was going on. I was recording, we got out. And it wasn't even until the third officer showed up and said, that's weed man, right? And then it became, get the dogs. The next thing you know, searched my pockets and arrested.
Did you get to go to East Sham anyway?
Well, no, that's right down 73, where they just scam everybody.
Safety court.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you don't take anything else away from this, I want you to take away your business cards. Because heaven forbid something happens to you or someone you know in the future. We want you to be able to get somebody on your side who knows what they're doing and who cares about this stuff.
It's not for you, it's for your buddy that calls you.
Exactly.